Welcome to the 1998 IHSA Cross Country Championship Races from the shores of the Illinois River at Detweiler Park in Peoria. Brought to you by Pepsi One and by Country Company Insurance. Hi everybody, I'm Mitch Robinson, alongside me Jim Blaney, and Jim, just the start of what should be a wonderful day of racing.
Well, it's an absolutely perfect day for cross-country races. A little bit cool, but that's the way the racers like it. The sun is shining. You couldn't ask for a better day.
Let's talk about our first race, the single A girls. We have some nice talent back this year.
3 of the top 10 finishers back in this race from last year. Jessica Hall from Eureka was 3rd in the race last year. Didn't have one of the better sectional times, but sometimes, Mitch, that can be deceiving because of a difference in courses. She's just one of the people to watch in the race, along with Jessica Hall, who was 4th in last year's race. Those two should be the top 2 contenders in the race, and she's from Delavan, Jessica Hall is, and I would think that this would be an opportunity for her to move to the top of the state.
When you talk team-wise, we've got heavy hitters, including last year's big one, Petersburg Fordham.
Well, Lee Vickery was 8th last year in the individual, and Petersburg has 2 runners who are in the top 10 in the sectional times. They should be able to make the best run at winning the state overall championship. But then again, you come into this race and the sectionals are a little bit deceiving because of difference in courses, and some of the runners who finish in the sectionals that aren't even here at state. So Petersburg should be one of the top teams in state, but Marion Central has a very good team as well.
I'm going to go on a limb from the north and say Winnebago might have something. Roger Fredrickson always gets his girls ready to run. They are 4-time state champions. Hey, we're getting ready to start it off. Stay with us when we come back. The start to the single A girls cross-country race. All right, welcome everyone back in the single A race underway. Jim Blaney with myself, Mitch Robinson, and Jim, it is now just like a wide dash on the field. The course this year, 2.5 miles opposed to 2.1 last year, so a bit longer for the girls. They will bypass the north loop. It's almost a full 3 laps around the start-finish line for these girls to complete the course. Conditions so far, it's about 35 degrees. It is wet out there. There was a frost before the race that has melted, so could be a little slippery in the early going, right, Jim?
Shouldn't be too bad in the areas where the sun is now shining, but if you get in a shady spot where there's a bunch of leaves, it's not going to be a problem when the racers plant their feet, but the problem will come when they go to push off. You can slip a little bit, but the main thing here at the start is, since it is downhill, you do want to make sure you don't go out too quickly. However, if you are one of the contenders for the individual title, you do want to make sure you get to the head of the pack by the time you get to the bottom of the straightaway. So you have to make sure you don't get boxed in. That's usually not too much of a problem here at Detweiler Park because the start area is so big and it funnels so well that it usually isn't too much of a problem for the racers at the very start of the race here.
Quite a scene here early on as they come across the field to get into this first full lap of the race. A lot of fans on hand. It is a gorgeous afternoon.
April Selby of Shelbyville has jumped out to the start and has tried to build up a little bit of an advantage here. I would say she's leading by a good measure here of about 20 meters or so at the first part of the race. If you are trying to win an individual title, one thing you oftentimes want to do is push the pace early and make people chase you down.
She's got Mindy Peterson right behind her from Taylor Ridge. Mindy Peterson, a sophomore in this race. It's a nice little grouping up front of 4 racers, and then it drops back a couple feet as they come around the back.
Excuse me, Mitch. There was one of the spots where they do have to be a little bit careful as they ran behind that evergreen tree where it is shady, but everybody seemed to negotiate it quite well. And the pack's starting to close in a little bit, so again, it would seem what the strategy here was is just to run out early and get a good head start and make everybody chase you down a little bit.
Janelle Berkey among those front runners from Stanford Olympia, a senior in this race. She's joined by Jennifer Heitman, also a senior, running out of Sherrod.
Well, the strategy here for Shelbyville is to send somebody out quickly to take advantage in the race and try and make everybody else chase you down.
As they come around the turn, crowds lining up along the whole side, so they have plenty of support running around for the girls. Jim, did they actually hear the crowds cheering them?
You do a little bit, but I'll tell you what, it gets a little bit annoying at the time, everybody telling you to run faster when you have a good idea of what you want to do. But Erin Frakes obviously wanted to set the pace early for Mindy Peterson. Now Peterson has moved up shoulder to shoulder with her teammate. We should point out that Rockridge does not have a team here. The 2 runners you see, Mindy Peterson and Erin Frakes, are the only 2 runners here from Rockridge. So obviously, even though they don't have a team of 5 people here competing for a team title, what they're trying to do is the 2 of them set a pace together and see if one of them can win the race. The main thing now, if you're one of these top 4 runners, you have to be starting to think about positioning and not getting yourself boxed in for a push at the end.
And that would be the 2-mile mark we're coming up on. We are at 11:40, 11:41, and 11:42. The front pack of 4 separating. Mindy Peterson out of Taylor Ridge as we approach the 2-mile mark at 11:55 and counting.
Big move by Katie Labracki right there. Usually the front 2 runners will run almost shoulder to shoulder. They didn't. They left an opening. Katie Labracki saw that if they closed in and ran shoulder to shoulder, she was going to be blocked off and boxed in. She ran between the 2 lead runners and now is back up at the front with Peterson.
We've got a half mile to go at 12:14 in that front haul. Jessica Hall also hanging in there at a Delavan. 3 girls pulling away now. It is Mindy Peterson, Labracki, and Jessica Hall pulling away from the rest of the pack, making their move as we come into the final stretch of this single A state final.
Well, and unless Jessica Hall makes a move right now, she's starting to fall off the pace, so now all of a sudden it's developing into a 2-person race.
Neither girl showing any signs of weakness. Actually look to be running a great race in this one.
Well, and the way it is, too, with Labracki being a junior and Peterson being just a sophomore, this could be a preview of next year's race as well.
Little rivalry maybe being formed here. Jessica Hall starting to move up again down the backstretch, trying to keep up with the front 2.
Jessica Hall's got to make this count because she's the only senior in the pack of the top 3, so this is her last shot at it. And a moment ago, it looked like she was falling back, but now she's starting to reel in the lead 2 runners, and she could still be a factor in this race.
As the final sprint begins down the backstretch, it's a 3-girl race in the single A state final. The rest of the pack well off the pace. 3 abreast, Jessica Hall has caught the leaders.
And Mindy Peterson, no matter what happens in this race, owes a big deal of thanks to her teammate Erin Frakes, who set the pace early. But now the runner's starting to stride out as they enter the final half mile, and Katie Labracki is starting to pick it up and saying to everybody else, if you're going to win this thing, you're going to have to catch me because I'm making my move right now.
And the move is a strong one. As soon as I said Hall caught him, the rest pull away. Katie Labracki and Peterson speeding. Peterson coming up there side by side. Peterson passes Labracki.
Mindy Peterson has opened up about a 3-yard lead, and the question now has to be, did Katie Labracki go too early? Because Mindy Peterson is moving up and she's going uphill. Keep that in mind. She's looking good as she comes down to the final 300 meters.
The sophomore leading the way. What a first race here. The sprint uphill, and it is all but over.
It's the hardest part right now, Mitch, especially when you're going uphill, is to keep that stride long and to keep eating up the hill. This is absolutely phenomenal because Mindy Peterson does not have the size that Katie Labracki does, probably not the strength either, but she ran a smart race. She had the pace set by her teammate Erin Frakes, and Mindy Peterson makes it count for a state championship.
Mindy Peterson of Taylor Ridge at 14:56.57, and she crosses at 15, just about 15. Mindy Peterson, the sophomore, in first place. Kelly Labracki right behind her.
Jessica Hall came in 3rd.
And the rest of the pack coming up. This is Jennifer Heitman out of Sherrod.
And Janelle Berkey is going to finish 5th.
Here comes the pack. And the final standings for the single A girls team race. Olympia High School takes 5th place. Last year's state champ Petersburg Porta takes 4th. Pittsfield in 3rd. Sandwich 2nd. And with 91 points, Woodstock Marion wins your state title. I talked with head coach Tom Van Dahl.
I'm kind of like from the old school. I'm real strict. You know, he says, I treat it like they got a gift God gave them, and either they can develop it or let it waste. And I try to bring just the most out of them. And sometimes they get real mad at me, and I'm the real jerk, and that's okay. I says, this is something they'll remember for the rest of their lives. They'll think, they may not even remember my name, but they'll say, you know, the coach, he was a real jerk, but he made us work hard. And as long as they got the trophy, they can always come back 20 years from now and show their kids and say, I was a member of that.
And so the final standings for the single A girls: from 5th place, Janelle Berkey of Olympia High School. In 4th, Jennifer Heitman of Sherrard. 3rd place was Delavan's Jessica Hall. Katie Labracki from Woodstock Marion took 2nd. And your state champion, Mindy Peterson from Taylor Ridge, Rock Ridge.
I've had pressure on me all year to do well, and I mean, the only person I've lost to is Aaron Frakes, my teammate. And so, I mean, people wanted me to be up there, and people wanted me to place high, and so did I, and it was just a lot of pressure and a lot of relief when I came across the finish line.
We'll be right back with the boys' Class A State Cross Country Final. Welcome back, and now with the single A girls finish, we move on to the boys single A races, and individually look no further than the defending state champion Ryan Young.
Ryan Young won this race last year with a time of 14:57, and that's the question, Mitch. Can anybody catch this guy? He's going to put on a kick with about 2 miles to go and just see if he can outrun everybody. Last year he did, in the sectional he did, but his 2 main competitors in the sectional, maybe his 2 main competitors today might be able to stop him. Number 1, Brandon Queen from Monmouth had a tough start in his sectional, couldn't quite recover. And then Mitchell Baker from Macomb finished 3rd in that sectional. He might be able to make a run at it as well.
Team-wise, we have some interesting news right off the bat. St. Joe's, we were looking at to be one of the favorites. Matt Hale out with mono.
Number 1 runner for St. Joseph Ogden, not running in the race today because of mono. They still think they might be able to make a run at winning the team title, but that's a big loss because Hale was also in line to maybe win this race individually. Prairie Central had 2 of the top 8 times in the sectionals last week. They also had to be considered a strong contender for the team title, especially since their number 1 point total may be 1.
Another strong field. Now, in case you're wondering how we get these shots and do the coverage, well, it's from the back of this pickup right here from Green Chevrolet. And in just a few moments, Jim and I will be gassing up and bringing you the boys' single A action. Stay with us. Welcome back, and that is the start of the boys' single A state final, and we have a special treat joining us in the truck along with Jim Blaney, and it is Craig Virgin, 2-time state champion, world champion runner. Craig, thanks a lot for stopping by. Just a fan out here today, huh?
You bet. I haven't been here since 1975. I think it's time I finally made it back.
Well, and you have the all-time standing record under 14 minutes on this course. Any chance of one of these guys here trying to post anything near that?
I don't think in the Class A, the Class AA with the Torres twins would have the best shot, and that's one of the reasons that I came here today.
All right, see if his record can stand the test of time. Who knows? McGuire broke a record this year, I heard. Not sure. Jim, the whole pack coming up here, it has turned into a beautiful, beautiful fall morning.
About another 5 degrees will be absolutely perfect, but it's certainly a lot warmer for this race than it was for the girls' single A race. And as we saw in the single A race, we see somebody jumping out to the pack early and making everybody chase them down. So it sets a quick pace early, but many times the person you see out in front from the word go, unless it's Craig Virgin, isn't the person leading at the end.
I believe it's Matt Wildhelm of Woodstock Marion, the senior, leading the pack on this one.
And the reason for that is because Marion Central has a very good chance of claiming a team title in this race. So what they want to do is get one of their runners out in the front and set a pace to the race and have everybody else chase them down. They've got plenty of runners. They want to see if they can wear out some of the top individual runners in this race.
Marion Central has 3 guys in the top 10 today, so if that's what their team tactics are, it's working well to get 3 guys out in the top 10 to 15.
Also along the front, Sean Lucas, the freshman out of Elgin St. Edwards.
Well, if you're an individual in this race, you really have nothing to lose. You don't want to get caught back in the pack, so you do want to make sure you break out to the front pretty quickly and don't get caught up in the traffic.
Looking at the front leaders, John Schaefer, a senior of Hoopston. He is along the second pack. Next side is Phil Zelke of Melrose Park, Walter Lutheran.
Walter Lutheran with 2 individual runners in this race, not a team of runners. So again, you'll see a lot of the individuals up in the front part of the pack trying to hang around. You'll see 1 or 2 runners from the teams get out and try and set a pace in the race.
As far as the pacing so far, Craig, what do you see with these guys?
It's difficult for me to tell until we get to the mile mark. They're not going exorbitantly fast. Remember, the first half mile is basically downhill. For those that use too much energy, they're going to pay a price as they come around and start up. It's the people that can maintain the tempo going up the hill after the turn that are going to do well in this race.
As we come up, the truck passing the mile at 4:40. The runners, they're about 10 seconds behind us.
Now here's a good example of how the sectional times can be deceiving. Robert Hanners of Tuscola
4:47 for the mile.
ran 15:22 in his sectional. Now that's well behind what Ryan Young and all the other guys did when they were at Kankakee, but Hanners is right with the lead of the pack. He won his sectional, and he's one of the guys who can give Ryan Young a run in this race.
What do they have to average per mile to have any shot at a state record?
Well, we used to go out in sub 4:30 for the mile my junior and senior year, so obviously they're a little bit behind already. The main thing is they've got to try to maintain that 4:45 pace, and that's very difficult to do for most of these guys.
Hanners has obviously decided at this point of the race he wants to be in the lead, and for Ryan Young, it's a perfect spot. He's in great shape. He's right where he wants to be.
Matt Baum Sr. in the group out of Dunlap running up there as they go into the loop.
This is what we call the triangle, the Bermuda Triangle, back when I was in school, because many of the athletes would go into here in good shape and then come back and they'd fallen back. They lost their concentration. This is the hardest part of the race. The middle mile is where you really have to focus, and if you're either intimidated or scared or tired, it's where you tend to lose your position back here.
And here we come out of the North Loop, or the Bermuda Triangle as it were. We are at 7:58, 7:59, 8 minutes, and the front runners, Ryan Young among the front three on that one, also joining Young.
Robert Hanners from Tuscola continuing to hold the lead.
And Mitchell Baker, another one we talked about, Adam McComb, the front three, and they have some separation from the rest of the pack.
Now it's a matter of, Craig, when does anybody want to make their move? We know when Ryan Young is going to make his. The other two guys, certainly I would have to think, have got to make a push to try and hold the lead. Again, Mitchell Baker ran in a sectional with Ryan Young, ran against him a lot during the season. He knows exactly what he's going to do. Really, Hanners may be at a bit of a disadvantage here because he may not be quite as familiar with the strategy of the other two racers here. But then again, by this time of the year and this time of the race, you pretty well have in your mind what you're going to do.
Well, if I had to pick a winner right now, Mitchell Ryan, number 101, looks awfully calm, and he looks very sedate. He's not breathing too hard. Mitchell Baker, I'm sorry,
No problem.
is looking very controlled. The other two guys are a little bit more, they just look more tired.
Craig,
If somebody's going to make a move, I would say Mitchell Baker would be the guy that could make it better at this point in time.
And make it maybe a little earlier. Ryan Young, Craig, is doing what I used to like to do in my competitive days, and that is run right off the shoulder of the leader because they know you're there. They just don't know when you're coming, and it looks like Ryan Young is moving out to get himself in a better position to start to make his move as we near the 2 mile point.
Robert Hanners falling off the pace in third as it's a two-person race right now between Ryan Young and Mitchell Baker. The two trying to get some more separation. Single file, they look strong.
Craig, back to your comment about strength and upper body work. I would have to think that is why Ryan Young has a better, not only position in this race, but also the strength, because Baker doesn't have the build that Ryan Young has, and I would have to think it's going to be very difficult for Baker running uphill that last quarter mile to catch Young.
I want to say this, Baker's starting to overstride just a little bit. Now that's a product of fatigue, and he's losing some of his turnover, and you see a bit of a gap developing. There's about 5 yards now, maybe 3. Baker's at a point where he's got to pull himself back together again if he wants to challenge Young on the straightaway.
Ryan Young have the makings of the Phil Jackson shoulders starting there.
It's exactly what he looks like. It's a very good analogy.
Now we're going to go to the upper body strength. Now we're going to find out who wants this race more. Baker's starting to drop back. He's back 5 yards now. Young is continuing to drive. He doesn't bother to look back. He knows this is his race as long as he doesn't falter coming up the straightaway.
Ryan Young, definitely a muscular runner. Look at the legs. You can see him pumping along. We're at 13:36, 13:37, 38 as they're coming up, getting ready to enter that uphill climb.
This is Young's race at this point in time. Baker has fallen back now to 10 or 15 yards behind. Young just has to power his way in. As long as he doesn't tie up, he's going to win this race.
Looks like he's starting to put a little sprint, trying to get the kick going. The determination on Ryan Young's face.
This is 400 yards to the finish. This is where you got to lay it on the line. There's nothing left to go for now.
Starting to swing him freely.
He's got good knee lift. He's keeping his chin down. He's got good form and technique. There's no doubt in my mind that he's going to win this race.
This is the kind of runner built for this course, so cold day, stronger runner, uphill finish. This course is tailor-made for him.
Ryan Young had a plan and did exactly what he intended to do.
This is a fun part right here.
In the last 100 yards. Here he comes. Look at that nice knee lift. Look at that arms. He's really driving now to the finish.
14:57 was his time last year.
Well, he's at 14:52, 53. He's making a run. He won't beat last year's, but he will be your single A state champion.
He ran his last mile in 4 minutes and 55 seconds, so he dropped the pace about 20 seconds a mile that last mile.
Mitchell Baker chugging along in second, and Hanners comes in third, 14:59. Looks like it was the winning time. Tommy Morrison of Westmont taking fourth place. Have you noticed any teams, Jim?
Well, Westmont is one of the teams that might be able to make a run at winning this title, and to get one of your runners into the top 5 is a great start.
And your final team standings for the boys Class A State Cross Country Championship. Woodstock Marion comes in 5th place, while Robinson High School takes 4th. Fairbury's Prairie Central in 3rd. Westmont finishes in 2nd. And for the first time ever, Eureka, with 73 points, is your state team cross-country champions. I spoke with head coach Brett Charlton.
Mid-season, we took over the #1 ranking. At that point, you're thinking to yourself, I tell the kids, it doesn't mean anything to the last meet of the year. And, now I can honestly say they are state champs, and there's no one right now that can take that away from them. It's theirs. They earned it. It's all theirs. They are state champs.
And your finals for the boys Class A Cross Country Championship. Phil Zilke from Melrose Park Walter Lutheran takes 5th. Westmont's Tommy Morrison in 4th. Robert Hanners of Tuscola takes 3rd. Mitchell Baker in 2nd from Macomb. And your state champion again, Ryan Young, with a time of 15 minutes even from Prairie Central.
As I was coming around probably the last turn, I was just telling myself over and over, if I didn't, defend my title or something, 30 years down the road, I'd probably be upset with myself and probably would never live it down. This race was, I think it was tougher than last year's because, Robert Harris too, pretty hard at the 2 mile, and I just went on with him, and then I just kind of decided to start my kick, and then the crowd kind of built up at the end. I mean, first they're just kind of clapping, just kind of congratulating me, and then when I heard him start really getting excited, I knew he was coming up on me, so I just really started my kick hard.
This copyrighted broadcast is presented for the entertainment and non-commercial use of our audience. Any reproduction or other use of this program without the written consent of Fox Sports Chicago and Intersport Television is strictly prohibited. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Mitch Robinson, Jim Blaney, and a 2-time Illinois state champion and the overall record holder still, Craig Virgin, joining us with us. First time we get to see your face. You've been in the back of the truck with us the whole time. Let's talk about this 2A girls race. 4 of the top finishers from last year back in this one, Jim, so we have the field to beat.
Well, Mitch, the conventional wisdom would be that this is going to be somewhat of a repeat of last year. We have the state champion back, Rebecca Mitchell from Geneva. She also had the best sectional time out of anybody. Tara Moody from St. Charles finished 2nd 1 year ago, but she is having an off year. But St. Charles may need her more to win a state title, so it may not be that big of a deal that individually she's up in the top 4. Kristen Worth of Bloomington, 3rd best time in the sectionals, 3rd last year at state. She's back again. And Katie Henning of Lincoln Way was 4th at state last year. She is back as well. The conventional wisdom is those top 4 will be the ones to watch.
Although, Craig Virgin, you know someone that you like as well.
Yes, I have a sentimental favorite. Ann Gaffigan from Springfield, our top downstate contender, won the state 2 mile track championship last spring. She's had a good fall. I think she can contend. The confidence that she won on the track last spring should help her in this race, because remember, this race accents speed on this course.
While we have favorites as individuals, as far as a team goes, that's a whole different story.
It is absolutely wide open. We have a lot of schools that have a chance of winning this title. St. Charles, I think you would have to look at #1 because of Tara Moody, but also Sandburg's got a very good team. Lincoln Way has a team that may send everybody across the finish line together. Naperville North, an outside shot as well.
We're getting ready to start the 2A girls race. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more of the 1998 cross-country state finals. And And the girls AA state final is underway. A wide array of runners coming down the straightaway. Like we said in the preview of this one, some of the top runners from last year all back. Team-wise, no clue.
Wide open, and a lot of that depends on how you get out of the start. In one particular case, the Knights from Lincoln Way, they're not so concerned about team or individual. Their coach wants everybody to go out and just run their best race and see what happens. So there's no effort to get Katie Henning a state title. There's really no particular effort for the team to win a championship. What they want to do is just have everybody go out and run their best time and see what happens, which I don't think is a bad strategy.
If you come up with 5 great individual performances, you can still win.
And Lincoln Way certainly has the talent to do exactly that.
What a great scene here at Detweiler Park. Runners coming down the front stretch, back the crowd switching sides, a big crowd on hand. The wind has picked up a little bit. Nothing really to speak of, though. Shouldn't help or hinder any of the racers.
And I'm not really up on my high school uniforms, but I think the black and red runners that you see out to the right, those are the Knights from Lincoln Way, so they're off to at least a good team start in this race. Running out at the front of the pack, that is Rebecca Mitchell from Geneva in the blue with the black tights.
We've got the individuals again running out front and leading the way. Also in that group, Christine Worth. We talked about her. She's been hot from Bloomington. Right behind, and also in the lead pack. Number 540, Katie Hartman out of Woodstock.
And Rachel Endress, another challenger for an individual title from Wheaton North, is running 4th right now. So, in effect, you've got all the top runners right at the front of the pack. They all got out of the start cleanly.
Fred, what do you see so far in their form early on? Are they getting into a comfortable rhythm, or is it still a little up and down?
It's still a little too early to tell. I need the mile mark to really get a handle on that. I wanted to say that there's not a more majestic straightaway start in a cross-country state championships in the country than what Detweiler Park has. This is a wonderful sight. It's majestic not only for the competitors, but also the spectators.
And there are loads of spectators on hand today. As the lead group is coming down the line here, a lot of the individuals.
But you're seeing some very aggressive running in the early going, and there are a lot of people that have to make a decision here early in the race as to whether they're going to let these people get away or if they're going to lay back and kind of wait for things to calm down a little bit. This is a very fast race so far.
I agree. When you see them single file this early in the race, you know that the front pace is fast.
If these leaders drop back any farther, we've got a chance of about a 9-person finish coming up here because the leaders are slowing down, and there's a middle pack of about 3 runners that's making up ground right now.
Ann Gaffigan is the girl in the yellow tights, and you've seen her moving up in the pack. She's a very strong runner. I think the move to a 2.5-mile distance will help her as opposed to a 2-mile race.
Watching Ann Gaffigan's eyes, she's looking back and forth across the 2 leaders and checking out exactly where they are. She's sizing them up. I have to think she likes her position based on her body language right here.
It definitely, look, you could see her. She's watching their steps as each step they take. She's moving from left to right, trying to make a move, it looks like, maybe get up another position.
What she's trying to do is run the tangents. The smart, efficient distance runners need to run the tangents. Our leader is not running the most shortest economical route on this course, and that's going to cost her in the end.
Gaffigan and Worth now running shoulder to shoulder and trying to run down Katie Hartman, who she's had the lead most of the way, and it appears she's getting a challenge right now from 2nd and 3rd.
Hartman almost looks like she's running with her eyes closed, really getting into the run and feeling her body and just trying to stick it out.
She's starting to get into some oxygen debt. I can tell by the way her head is tilting back a little bit. She's wanting more oxygen. She's tightening up just a little bit. She hasn't lost it yet, but she's struggling a lot more now in this 2nd lap than she was in the 1st. Gaffigan is coming up on her shoulder, and in fact, Worth has actually fallen behind about 5 meters.
And Gaffigan is practically brushing up against those trees, Craig. As you talked about them running the tangents, she's running point to point very well and shortening the course a bit.
Gaffigan making her move. She is side by side and ready to take the lead. And looks strong, real smooth and comfortable. She's not bouncing around out there.
No, she's definitely asserting herself. She's now taking the lead about a yard in front, and Worth is not responding. I cannot believe this. Worth is going to let her go, which I think is a terrible tactical mistake at this point in time. She cannot afford to let Gaffigan get this kind of a lead with 1 lap to go. We're starting to approach only 400 or 500 meters from the finish. At this point in time, this is Gaffigan's race unless she blows up.
And Craig, a lot of times what happens in a AA race is the runners from the Chicagoland area are so hung up on what each other is doing, they really don't necessarily pay so much attention to a downstate runner. I think Ann Gaffigan used a little bit of that to her advantage. We talked about how fast the pace was coming out of the race. Ann Gaffigan was not part of that. She didn't expend any extra energy in the start of the race.
Ann Gaffigan motoring on to the state final 2A championship. She's got this one in hand, but it's been a hard-fought race for Katie Hartman in second out of Woodstock. Another fine showing.
Craig, I just think Ann Gaffigan has run a fantastic race.
Well, it's unusual for a downstate runner to do this well in the state meet. Usually they're intimidated. But the fact that Ann Gaffigan won the state 2-mile championship last spring had to give her confidence that she could run with these girls here.
I just love the way she runs. She runs like a champion. She really does.
She's got 100 meters to go, and now she has it. She's looking at the finish. It's a little bit hard on her right now, but believe me, it hurts worse in second place than it does in first.
Remember, after first and second cross, we have a big battle. The rest of the pack is close together, but Ann Gaffigan will be the state champion in the Class 2A. What a race she has run.
I wonder when the last time it was that a downstate girl won the state cross-country championship. We'd have to check our books on that.
She finishes at a 14:03. Katie Hartman coming up, a hard-fought race, just couldn't hold off Gaffigan at the end. And there's Worth in third, and here comes the rest of the pack. And now for your final team standings in the Class 2A cross-country championship. Champaign Centennial High School takes 5th place, while Wheaton North finishes in 4th. Lake Zurich in 3rd place, and Naperville North in 2nd. And St. Charles is your girls 2A state champion with a team total of 83. I spoke with St. Charles head coach Tom Roderick.
To be able to come together and put it all together on one day like this, and we've got 3 seniors going out of here that, you know, what a great way for them to go out, because they've been with us for 4 years, just outstanding runners and great people. This is our second one, and it's a lot harder than the first one because everybody's gunning for you, and the way the kids handled the pressure and went out there, worked every day, and came out and ran hard every meet and handled the pressure was just outstanding.
And your final standings for the girls Class 2A cross-country championship. In 5th place, Jenny Goebel of Willowbrook. 4th place goes to Lisa Vogley of Benet Academy. Christine Worth of Bloomington High School takes 3rd, while Katie Hartman finishes 2nd from Woodstock. And your winner and state champion, Ann Gaffigan of Sacred Heart Griffin in Springfield. She finished with a time of 14:03. I spoke with Ann about the race.
I had to remind myself how I felt because they went out fast the first mile, the whole field did, and I was nervous that I wasn't running well and that I wasn't running fast enough, but I had to remind myself that, you know, I didn't want to sprint the first mile like I did last year, you know, and I had to stop and ask myself, how do you really feel? And I realized I felt fine, you know. Sometimes when you're in a race like that and you're losing or you're behind where you want to be, you feel worse than you think you feel worse than you really do. So I had to actually ask myself how I felt, and when I thought about it, I really didn't feel that bad.
On the way next, it's the boys 2A state finals from Detweiler Park in Peoria. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Mitch Robinson with Jim Blaney, and we're privileged to have Craig Virgin join us this year at the state finals. It's been an exciting insight you're giving us so far.
I'll tell you, I haven't been here since 1975. It's time I finally made it back to Detweiler Park.
And you're here to see one, probably the best races of the day. It is the boys 2A championship and a runner that everyone's talking about, George Torres.
George Torres trying to win his 3rd straight state championship here in cross country, and he's got his brother to help him out, Ed Torres. Donald Sage of York appears to be the other main challenger, but what's interesting about this race, let's go back to the 2-mile last year from the IHSA Class AA State Track and Field Championship. The Torres brothers just tried to beat up Mark Pilja of Naperville North, and Craig, the strategy didn't work really well that day, but we could see a similar thing today.
Well, if the Torres twins gang up on Sage or basically try to set the pace themselves, if they burn each other out, Sage is there to pick up the pieces. Sage has a strong tradition at York. They want to win the team title. They all want to give Coach Newton that 20th team championship. So it should be a good battle out there.
Leading right into those team titles, I mean, Wheeling, you think they'll have 2 top finishers in both the Torres brothers, but can you beat the rest of their runners?
Well, that's the thing. Wheeling is probably going to come out of this thing with 2 guys at least in the top 5. You have to like their chances. Salem posted a 50 in their sectional meet. They have to be considered as a shot. And we mentioned about Wheeling being in there as well, but York is always around. And Joe Newton always figures out a way to get his team close, if not to the top spot, so they're always a dangerous club.
We're getting ready to start at the final race of the day, the boys' two-way championship. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, and there it is, the gun for the boys' two-way cross-country state championship. This is the race we've been waiting for. We've got plenty of top talent. Before I get to that, though, remember, fans, the Chicago Sun-Times is the official newspaper of the IHSA state championships. And don't forget to get your Chicago Sun-Times for complete coverage of Illinois high school sports. Now, back to the action and looking for the Torres brothers, Craig, to start a pace right away.
I want to be able to see this first mile mark. If they want to have a chance at my record, they've got to be running the first mile in 4:30 or under. That's how we used to race it very aggressively back in the 70s. That's the difference to a certain degree between the 70s and the 90s.
We were talking about that before. It seems that all the records that were set and broken were back in the 70s. No one has come close to your record of 13:50 set back in 71.
Tom Graves ran 13:56 back in 1977, and that was the closest anyone came, and he ran a 4:28 second mile to get to that point. That's how aggressive you have to be.
Greg Virgin will keep you up to date on the splits and see how the pace is going. Jim, who do we have up front?
George Torres, big shock. He's right out in front, and his brother is back in the pack a little bit, but has now moved up behind him. So the Torres brothers got out very, very cleanly, and I'm looking back into the pack, and I do not see Donald Sage of York as of yet, but there's a long way to go. And from a team standpoint, the Salem runners have gotten off to a very good start up near the top of the pack.
I'm looking over here, and I see the runner from Juan Ortega, one of the ones we were going to look at on Morton.
He's carrying a football.
Yeah, it looks like he's carrying a football down the sidelines.
Well, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know whether he has gloves or a shirt, but if I was him, I'd toss it off to the side and try to find it later.
Looks like he's getting ready to do just that. Mike Cropper of Hoffman Estates Conant, he's out in front as well, along with Justin Emerson, a junior from Centralia. There is no separation at the start of this one. Do you expect the strong runners to make a pole early?
They're running fast, but they're not running that fast. Otherwise, it'd be like the girls' race. You'd see a single file.
Donald Sage has moved up into third place now. He's right behind George Torres.
Don Sage did an excellent execution of running the first half mile, fast enough to be in contact, but not wasting any energy. He did a very good job getting through that first turn.
You know what's amazing, Craig, as I look at the runners now, the upper body strength of runners now, as opposed to what it was when you or I were running, that to me has been the biggest change in the sport.
Well, hopefully they're doing weightlifting now. I did not do weightlifting until my senior year of high school.
Well, it's Mike Cropper of Conant with the early lead, but he has all the big boys right behind him, Donald Sage and George Torres. Still looking for George's brother.
He's right behind Sage in fourth place.
And that's the grouping they like. You say the Torres brothers definitely will help each other.
Well, they did it at the 2 miles we talked about in the open. They just flat beat up Mark Pilja of Naperville North. As a matter of fact, I guess Pilja's mother was a little bit upset with the way they handled Pilja during the race. But I talked to some of the wheeling runners before the race. They said, no, we don't plan on being physical because we do feel we have a shot at a state record. So they think the Torres guys are just going to go out and run hard the whole race and not really get into boxing people out and trying to beat somebody up.
And the first mile, they did it about 4:36. 4:36, how's that for a pace?
Well, they're about 10 seconds off what I ran my senior year, but if they run the second mile fast enough, they can still be in contention. It looks like they're on pace for a low 14-minute final time.
It appears they've stepped it up a little bit coming out here, and like you say now, the Bermuda Triangle. They'll disappear from us, and whoever comes out.
Don Sage has got to hang on to George if he's going to have a chance. He's got to still be on his shoulder with a mile to go if he's going to win this race.
And for George, he's got Ed watching his back, too, which is very helpful.
They look exactly alike running, the brothers, Torres, as they disappear into the triangle. Rest of the crowd following up. There is not a big separation from the lead runners, but look at this, just a steady stream. You see anything in the way of teams, Jim?
Well, the kids from Salem had a couple guys up in the top 10. They've got their other runners bunched up pretty well. There's 3 green shirts right there, so they're doing well. I saw a couple of runners from Naperville Central go through together as well.
I haven't seen anything from the Lockport team, the defending champs.
Saw a couple of their runners go by, and I can tell by all the bald heads going through that York has gotten most of their people through already as well.
York going for that 20th state title, team title. What a feat that would be. We're at 11:10. 11:10 as we come around the back stretch.
They are really pushing the pace right now. They started that surge with over a half a mile to go.
Now earlier I said Donald Sage really had the pressure on him. I think now the pressure has shifted to Torres because he tried to get rid of Donald Sage and couldn't do it. Sage stayed right with him.
I believe that they're backing off right now. George is trying to gather himself to recover for the last 400 yards. I think he realizes that it's going to be a sprint finish.
Well,
Sage
looks like he's struggling a little bit. Sage's head just dropped. That's usually one of the first signs that fatigue is setting in.
You can see the chin bobbing a little more, and Torres is like a machine, just pumping away.
Torres sensed it. He's putting the hammer down now. He's got 5 yards.
And let's not forget about Ed Torres back in third, because we could very well have a 1-2 wheeling finish because Sage is really fighting it now, and Ed Torres back in third place is looking in pretty good shape.
Major drop-off all of a sudden. Torres looking over his shoulder to see who's in second. Sage still how the distance is. It's a good gap now.
Sage is back about 15 yards, but there's a long straightaway here going up the hill, and if George miscalculated, he could pay for it.
George can sense it though, Craig, because when he came around that turn, he looked up the hill to see exactly where the finish line was.
Sage has not lost his rhythm. He's still back there. He's still in the hunt, but George has got to really step it up now to get a gap.
First, second, third, and fourth place are pretty well spread out. After that, it's anyone's race.
George just looked back, but he still appears to be in control. I think he was just checking where Sage was at this point in time.
And if Wheeling is going to try and make an attempt at the team title, it's very key that Ed Torres catch up to Sage.
We've got 500 yards to the finish line, and George is looking it out now. He's now got 20, 30 meters on Don Sage.
Look how smooth, just pumping the arms, nice rhythm, steady, the head is steady.
I think that the finishing time is going to be under 14:10. I would predict a time under 14:10.
George Torres putting on a show again. He owns this race.
3 titles is a very impressive string of victories.
You have to appreciate a runner like Torres.
We've got Don Sage hanging on for second place. He's paying a terrible price this final straightaway.
13:46 as he comes into the final run. Your record's safe, but George Torres will win another state title. 13:59, just under 14. What a race run.
He really ran the last mile very hard to get to that point. Don Sage is finishing second. He really had to pay a terrible price for going with George on that move. And now Ed Torres is coming in third place.
Don Sage across Ed Torres in third, so Wheeling in 1 and 3. And here comes the rest of the pack. Chris Simers takes fourth place. Andy Jansen in Naperville Central in fifth. And now we're looking for light jerseys. And your top 5 team standings in the boys 2A cross-country championships. Naperville Central in 5th place. Last year's state champ Lockport takes 4th. Schaumburg in 3rd. While York couldn't get first, but they do get 2nd because Wheeling takes first with 126 points. I talked with head coach Mark Saylor.
Well, I don't think they're any different than any other group of guys. They had a burning desire to win this thing a year ago, and we talked about it as many coaches do. And then they came together and just worked tremendously hard throughout the summer and the season. And as it turned out, they stuck together today and won the championship.
In the final standings of the boys 2A state championship has Andy Jansen of Naperville Central in 5th, Chris Siemers of Fenton High School in 4th, Eddie Torres of Wheeling in 3rd, Donald Sage of York High School gets 2nd, while, your winner again, George Torres of Wheeling with a time of 14 flat. I talked with George about the race.
It's special.
knowing that I'm the only 3-time state champion out there in Illinois. It's something that I know is going to be with me for a while, for a long time. This year, the team won it. Something I've been shooting for since I first came into high school, winning a team title. Individual title means something to me, something good, but I can't share it with anybody. A state title, I could share it with 7 guys. 7 guys have been working with me. And those guys are like my brothers, and I could share the state title with them.
So it's been truly a fantastic day of racing here at the IHSA Cross Country Championships, and it all started early with one of the smallest competitors in the field.
Mindy Peterson won the girls Class A race, and I was just impressed by the amount of heart she had. She just kept hanging in her race and eventually won it, and we get to see her for another couple of years because she's an underclassman. And then in the case of George Torres of Wheeling, I think one of the hardest things to do in all of sport is to defend a title and win when everybody expects you to win. And that's what he did today. 3 state titles, an incredible accomplishment in any sport at any time.
Craig Virgin, you join us today, and you see probably one of the best races this place has seen in a long time.
Well, it's been 23 years since I've been here last to at least watch, and then this year I got a chance to see George Torres run the fastest time in 21 years. Only Tom Graves has run faster in recent time, and that was back in 1977. So obviously we saw him win, not only defend his title, but win his 3rd title, something I never did. We saw Ann Gaffigan execute a flawless strategy in the 2.5-mile new course for the girls. I think that mark will be one to be challenged next year as well.
And of course, Craig Virgin's record still stands. So for Jim Blaney and Craig Virgin, I'm Mitch Robinson from Detweiler Park in the IHSA Cross Country Championships. You've been watching the IHSA Championships on Fox Sports Chicago.